Hunting season had not yet begun in Buncombe County, North Carolina, on September 7th, 1997. Nevertheless, that day, a father and son went out to hunt deer in Pisgah National Forest near Asheville. The trip would soon bring them into contact with law enforcement, but not because they had violated local regulations. Instead, they were about to open a new chapter of a months-long mystery. Near the Stony Point picnic area, around 4 p.m., they discovered a partially buried human skeleton. The Buncombe County Sheriff's Office came to the scene to investigate. Some of the bones had been scattered around a 100-yard area by scavenging animals. The majority of the skeleton was, however, still contained in the Long John-style insulated underwear the person had been wearing at the time of their death, along with blue jeans and hiking boots. Nearby, investigators found a blue vinyl backpack full of winter clothes and a shirt that had been buried in the ground. While there was cash in the backpack and in the pocket of the shirt, there were no credit cards or pieces of identification to help the sheriff's office determine whose bones had been discovered in their jurisdiction. The remains were sent to the North Carolina Medical Examiner's Office in Chapel Hill. There, the medical examiner ruled that the skeleton belonged to a homicide victim. This determination was based in part in the circumstances in which the remains had been found. They had been wrapped in a blanket and then buried, something the deceased person could not have done to themselves after their death. Furthermore, slashes and punctures in the bra found with the remains indicated that the victim had been stabbed to death. In terms of identifying the victim, the medical examiner determined that she was a white woman, most likely between the ages of 40 and 55. She had severe arthritis in her right knee. She had undergone extensive and expensive dental work, which could be used to identify her, but they would need dental records to match the work to in order to do so. Luckily for investigators, a man named Dr. Parker Davis saw an article about their Jane Doe that had been published on September 9th in the Asheville Citizen-Times. Dr. Davis worked as an emergency room doctor at Angel Medical Center in Franklin, North Carolina, approximately 65 miles west of Asheville. His hospital had previously received a flyer about a missing woman. Dr. Davis believed that the remains discussed in the article could potentially be those of the missing woman. He therefore faxed the newspaper article to the investigating agency on September 25th. They followed up on the lead, and eventually, dental records confirmed that the remains were those of 50-year-old Judy Smith. While the identification solved the mystery of whose remains had been found in Pisgah National Forest, it added an entirely new level of confusion to Judy's disappearance. While her family now had some answers about what had happened to her, they had so many more mysterious questions now. Most importantly, how had Judy ended up in North Carolina? She had disappeared more than 600 miles away in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The story of Judy's disappearance began even farther away, in Boston, Massachusetts. Judy lived there with her husband, Jeff Smith. Judy and Jeff had both been married before. Their marriage was Judy's third and Jeff's second. Jeff had a daughter, and Judy had both a son and a daughter from her second marriage. Judy worked as a home healthcare nurse, and she had met Jeff through her work. Back when she was still using her second husband's surname and was known as Judy Bradford, Judy had been hired to care for Jeff's father after he returned home from the hospital after having a cancerous growth removed from his throat. Jeff immediately appreciated Judy's bright personality and practical nature. On one of the first occasions he met her at his father's house, he watched in admiration as Judy climbed up on a chair to hang an IV bag from a curtain rod when faced with the lack of an IV pole. Jeff also worked in healthcare, but as an attorney. In the spring of 1997, He was due to attend the annual meeting of the Northeast Pharmaceutical Conference, a pharmaceutical organization made up of executives and researchers throughout the Northeast that he represented. The event was being held over the course of several days at the DoubleTree Hotel at Broad and Locust Streets in Philadelphia. Judy had never been to Philadelphia before and wanted to see some of the sights, so she and Jeff decided to make the trip together. They then planned to visit friends in New Jersey after Jeff's work at the conference was complete. On April 9, 1997, the couple went to Logan International Airport to board a flight to Philadelphia together. Things started to go wrong with the trip almost immediately. Judy did not have her driver's license and would not be allowed to board the plane without photo ID. Jeff had a meeting at the conference that afternoon, so he and Judy decided that he would leave on the 3:30 flight as scheduled, while Judy returned home to get her driver's license. She planned to return to the airport to hopefully get a seat on a later flight and meet Jeff at their hotel in Philadelphia after his meeting. Judy was able to catch the 7:30 flight and arrived at the DoubleTree around 10 p.m. She got a room key from the front desk and met up with Jeff in the lobby. She arrived with a bouquet of flowers and an apology for her forgetfulness for him. Before they went to bed that night, Judy told Jeff about her sightseeing plans for the following day while he was at conference functions. He would be busy with obligations all day, but he made plans with Judy to meet her at their hotel room by 5:30 p.m. so that they could attend a 6 o'clock cocktail party together. The following morning, April 10th, Jeff woke up before his wife. He went downstairs to eat the hotel's complimentary breakfast. He came back to the room to see Judy around 9 a.m. and found her in the shower. After he told her about the breakfast offerings, she joked that she should run down just as she was, naked and dripping wet from the shower. Jeff confirmed their plans for the evening and then left for the day's opening session. Jeff moderated the final panel of the day and then returned to his hotel room to meet up with Judy before the cocktail party. He arrived at 5:30 and was surprised to find that Judy was not there. Judy was very punctual and always arrived places early because to her, getting somewhere right on time was actually running late. When 6 o'clock arrived, he considered the possibility that there had been a misunderstanding, and Judy thought they were meeting at the cocktail party. Jeff went down to the room where the party was being held, but did not find his wife there. At 6:15, he asked a hotel concierge for help, and they began calling local hospitals. Jeff spent the next 45 minutes going between the party and his hotel room, hoping that Judy would eventually show up at one of the two locations. She never did. It was not inconceivable to Jeff that Judy could be delayed, because Judy was always willing to use her nursing skills to help those in need. The previous year, while on a flight to Florida, she had volunteered to give emergency assistance to a fellow passenger who had AIDS and had become seriously ill. However, it was inconceivable that she had not called the hotel to let him know that she was delayed. Judy had told Jeff that she would be spending the day using the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority's Flash Downtown Loop, a bus service designed to transport tourists between the major points of interest in downtown Philadelphia, like the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall. Jeff got in a cab and told the driver to drive along the route the Flash bus drove, going as slowly as possible so that he could look out the window for his wife. Much to the annoyance of the cab driver, he saw no sign of Judy. Jeff spent the rest of the night stopping at his hotel to see if Judy had come back and then going out to new places to look for her. He visited the stations of both the 6th and 9th police districts, as well as Jefferson Hospital. He he had planned to visit every hospital on a list given to him by a police officer, but a nurse at Jefferson offered to call all of them for him to see if Judy had been admitted as a patient since the concierge had last called, or if she had arrived with someone she had given aid to. Jeff called his daughter and his stepchildren to see if Judy had called them, but they had not heard from her. Jeff returned to the 9th District Police Station at midnight, thinking he could now formally report his wife missing. He was incorrect. The officer at the station told him it was too early to file a missing persons report. At best, they could potentially take the report after 9 a.m., 24 hours after Jeff had last seen Judy, although trying to do so would still be pushing his luck. At this point, Jeff was very frustrated with the lack of interest the police showed in trying to help him find Judy, so he decided to take advantage of some of the connections he had through his work for the Northeast Pharmaceutical Conference. Both Philadelphia Mayor Ed Rendell and Representative John Purcell, the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, were speaking at the conference. Jeff reached out to an official from the conference to see if they could ask for help from the politicians. What exactly happened behind the scenes is unclear, but Jeff was soon invited to file a missing persons report by the Philadelphia police. According to Jeff, the police now seemed much more eager to help. That being said, for several days, at least one detective assigned to the case seemed fixated on the idea that Judy had just run off on her own to get attention. In a Boston Globe article published on April 14th, the detective acknowledged that Judy does not seem to be the type of person to just disappear, but also stated that it is not uncommon for a person of this age to have a midlife crisis and disappear for a few days just to see if anyone misses them. Judy's loved ones did not believe this was the case. It was out of character for Judy, and it did not make sense that she would choose to disappear from an unfamiliar city after traveling there with her husband, when she could have just stayed home during his conference and left from her home, giving her a few days head start to get away before he came home and realized she was gone. Judy's children arrived in Philadelphia to help search for their mother. They spent days walking and biking around the city looking for Judy, or any witnesses who may have seen her. Judy carried a distinctive red backpack, which did help witnesses remember her. A hotel employee remembered her asking where to catch the flash bus. A driver on one of those buses did remember her boarding his bus at Front and South Streets sometime in the early afternoon. She got off the bus near her hotel. Later, she was seen entering and exiting a Greyhound bus terminal. It is believed she either just went in to use the restroom, or she was looking into the bus routes that ran from the terminal to Chinatown, as she did love Chinese food. Judy's family was concerned that she may have hit her head or undergone some sort of trauma that had left her with amnesia or in some sort of dissociative state. Potential sightings of her indicated that these fears may have been merited. There was a potential sighting of her at 3 p.m. on the day of her disappearance, near the intersection of Broad and Locust Streets. This is the earliest sighting where the witness claimed Judy was acting disoriented. 24 hours later, there was another potential sighting, and again, the woman believed to be Judy was acting strangely and as though she were disoriented. A salesperson and a customer claimed to see Judy shopping for dresses at the Macy's in the Deptford Mall in Deptford, New Jersey, which was easily accessible from Center City, Philadelphia by bus. They were able to provide an accurate physical description of Judy and even said the woman they saw was wearing a red backpack. However, they also described her as unstable. She was ranting and raving, but one of the topics she was going on about was her daughter. At one point, she said she was shopping for clothes for her daughter, but she didn't know why she bothered, because her daughter always hated whatever she bought her. for Judy's family. This was a sign that the woman really was Judy, as this was something Judy had said in the past after buying clothes for her daughter Amy. The woman then unsuccessfully tried to convince a young woman to leave with her as she left the store. The salesperson saw her talking to the young woman and at first thought she was the woman's daughter, but she was not. Unfortunately, there was no surveillance footage from the store. Multiple sightings of Judy were also reported near Penn's Landing. However, the witnesses almost certainly all saw a local homeless woman who bore a striking resemblance to Judy. Even Judy's own son thought she was his mother when he saw her from across the street. The woman was routinely stopped by police officers who thought she was Judy. There were also reports of a disoriented and disruptive guest at 2 hotels in Society Hill, but police were called and they confirmed that she was not Judy. As time went on, with no signs of Judy, police became suspicious of her husband. However, he was at conference functions surrounded by witnesses for almost the entirety of the time he was in Philadelphia. Police therefore theorized that Judy had never been in Philadelphia at all. Instead, Jeff had killed her in Massachusetts and hired someone to fly to Philadelphia under her name to confuse the investigation. Judy's presence in Philadelphia had initially only been confirmed by one hotel employee, although other people later came forward reporting that they had seen Judy at the hotel after her disappearance was covered by the local media. A female detective who searched Jeff and Judy's hotel room claimed that it appeared a woman had never been in the room, as there was no makeup or jewelry, and the only clothes missing were the ones Judy had worn the day before. However, Judy's children did not find this suspicious. Judy hardly wore any jewelry and almost no makeup, even for professional photos. She liked to travel with as little as possible, so she was a very efficient packer who got the most use out of what she did pack as possible. Judy's children and husband ultimately had to leave Philadelphia without her. They did not, however, give up the search for Judy. Jeff spent months calling police stations and hospitals up and down the East Coast looking for leads. He faxed missing persons flyers with pictures of Judy to hospitals and law enforcement agencies over the same massive portion of the country. His efforts did eventually pay off, as it was one of his flyers that led Dr. Davis to reporting the discovery of the remains that would prove to be Judy's to police in Philadelphia. Once it was confirmed that Judy's remains had been found in North Carolina, investigators from the sheriff's office there began looking for witnesses in hopes of determining if Judy had been in North Carolina before her death, or if her remains had just been disposed of there. Ultimately, 4 witnesses came forward, claiming they had seen Judy in and around Asheville shortly after she vanished from Philadelphia. 2 of those encounters were brief and involved Judy driving the same type of vehicle. The owner of Cromwell's Deli in Asheville identified Judy by her picture as a woman who had come into the deli to buy $30 worth of sandwiches and a toy train. The woman had been driving a gray sedan. The operator of the Big Cove campground also identified a woman who had stopped at the campground as Judy. She had driven up in a gray sedan full of bags and boxes and asked if she could sleep in her car at the campground. This was not allowed under the campground's policies, so she left. The most extended encounter with the woman believed to be Judy occurred at a Christmas shop at the Biltmore estate. Joanne Stucker, a clerk at the store, reported talking with Judy while she browsed the store, wearing her distinctive red backpack. After the woman told Joanne she was from Boston, Joanne mentioned that she had a friend named Judy who lived near Boston, and the woman said that her name was Judy as well. She told Joanne that her husband was an attorney and that they had been in Pennsylvania so he could attend a convention when she decided to come down to Asheville. According to Joanne, the woman did not show any signs of being disoriented or impaired. They had a very pleasant conversation. These sightings seem to indicate that Judy went to Asheville voluntarily. While this would solve part of the mystery of her case, it does raise plenty more questions. On a practical level, where did Judy get a gray sedan and all of the boxes full of items inside of it? She left Philadelphia without any of her belongings, and there was no activity on her bank accounts. So how did she get the money to buy the car and the things inside? Even if it was a rental, how is it that there is no record of a rental under her name? The bigger question is, of course, why would Judy voluntarily disappear? One of Judy's friends, Carolyn Dickey, alleged in an interview for Unsolved Mysteries that Judy and Jeff's marriage was in trouble at the time of Judy's disappearance. She believed that Judy may have wanted some time away from Jeff. She pointed to Judy for getting her license at the airport as potential evidence. Perhaps Judy had intentionally left it at home so she would have an excuse to be away from Jeff for a few hours. However, while today, presenting photo ID to board an airplane is a well-known requirement, the regulation necessitating it for all passengers had only gone into effect roughly 18 months before Judy disappeared. While she was an experienced traveler, she had only traveled by air once since the regulation had gone into effect. Her family did not think it was alarming that she had not brought her driver's license when she first went to the airport because, again, she only brought what was absolutely necessary with her on trips. So if she would not be driving during a trip, it would have made sense for her not to bring it with her. Jeff acknowledged that, like most couples, he and Judy disagreed occasionally, but he believed that she was happy with her life and their relationship. While Jeff and Judy had not been married for a long time, they had known each other for years, building a life and resolving issues as they came up. The couple had only been married for a few months at the time of Judy's disappearance, but they had been together for over a decade. When they first started dating, they both were raising children at home, so they waited until the children were grown and out of the house before they married. Judy's daughter Amy has only had positive things to say about her stepfather and has described him as being a very honest man. She has further stated that her mother loved Jeff and would not have put him through the ordeal of searching for her over any argument that they could have had. Furthermore, even if Judy were angry with her husband, why would she put her children through the hell of not knowing where she was? Jeff was not the only person she would be leaving behind by voluntarily disappearing from her life. The sightings of Judy in Asheville, particularly her interaction with Joanne at the Christmas store, do seem to indicate that Judy voluntarily traveled to North Carolina, even though it is unclear as to why or how she did so. She did not appear disoriented when she was there, as she did during some sightings of her in Philadelphia, and she disclosed enough accurate details about herself to show that she was not suffering from amnesia, as her family had feared. Judy had no strong connection to North Carolina. She may have been there at some point traveling with a patient, but her family cannot remember for sure if she went to North Carolina or to Tennessee. Animal hairs were found on her remains, and Judy loved horses. There was a horse farm nearby, but investigators could never confirm that she had visited it. Why she went to Asheville is just as unclear as why she left Philadelphia. While the matter of where Judy went after she vanished from Philadelphia has some answers, there are almost no solid answers about who killed her. Jeff could confidently be eliminated as a suspect because he was morbidly obese and in poor health, so there was no way he could have gotten to the remote slope where Judy's body was found. Furthermore, Judy's body was most likely brought to the site where she was buried. While she was dressed for hiking, she probably could not have hiked to the particular site where her remains were found, due to the severe arthritis in her right knee. Jeff was not in good enough health to have carried or dragged her body to the site. Judy was very friendly and trusting. It would not be out of character for her to meet someone new and spend some time with them. She could have potentially been out in the national forest with someone she met while out on a walk, and they attacked her. If Judy were killed by a stranger, there is no obvious motive for the crime. Robbery does not appear to be the motive, as $87 in cash was found in the pocket of the shirt found near the remains, and there was $80 cash inside of the blue nylon backpack buried near them. Police believe the backpack may have belonged to the killer. They also found a pair of high-end sunglasses that retailed for over $100 that they also believe may have belonged to the killer, as Judy did not spend a lot of money on items like that. The red backpack Judy carried has never been found. There is a theory that Judy may have been killed by Gary Michael Hilton. Hilton was a serial killer who was convicted of several murders that took place on hiking trails in national forests throughout the Appalachian Mountains. While Hilton did leave the body of one of his victims not far from the site where Judy's remains were found, his known killings did not start until October of 2007, over a decade after Judy was killed. The mystery of the final days of Judy Smith's life still endures, nearly 30 years after her strange disappearance and death. She seemed to vanish into thin air, only to be found months later, hundreds of miles away, under circumstances that raised more questions than they answered. To this day, no one knows how or why Judy ended up in North Carolina, or who was responsible for her death. Her husband Jeff died in 2005, without much more information than he had in 1997. While Jeff never found resolution to her case, hopefully her children someday will.